I did not catch that. Thank you.
If they're, if you're able to pass that information, I'm assuming to Sarah, there is a spot for that in RP Link.
Really? Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, and then I was.
Hey, Sarah. Easily the number of eligibles.
I can't imagine, you know, trying to work around construction stuff.
It is.
I guess just give you
It's not in the report.
Yeah,
In the
yeah, I know, I
details
was like,
morning.
okay, I said, I'm looking at that.
I'm asking if you can take it if she feeds you the numbers.
And still do stuff to get them to school.
How about the internet?
Well, let's not connect up right.
Yes, she's available. Oh, you have it?
I missed the last one.
I was gonna say, I think he was on the last meeting,
Yeah,
yeah, which would have been my first. Okay.
If we can capture that information, that would be very good.
Right?
I know, you
For sure.
Yeah, actually, I have the same access as you.
I think it will bloom all winter, at least. Treasurer's office.
Okay, that's all. Absolutely.
I mean, I think I have more access than mine because Adam gave, told me to get the same access that Jamie has.
So we're just chuckling.
Okay.
You met Susan. Okay, so Susan comes in. Or is you know,
Not random, but it's like a
orange cones.
In the city flowers, they're all over my street.
You like that? At least I think it will bloom all winter. Forecast says so.
Oh my, all right, so let's see. Stacy, do you recommend that we get started here with the quorum or that we wait for
He's on his
Chad? He's on his way? Okay, very good.
chocolate.
Probably. He may be over 2.6. Something else we need to figure out. So it was like under certain agencies that are kind of under IoT that's
You know,
undertaking some initiatives. Probably still happens.
Okay, yeah.
we were waiting for IoT to issue its guidelines before we ventured into this,
Yeah.
obviously. But as soon as they
These
did,
things tend
we
to
thought, okay,
shed.
where do we want to?
Oh, I want it like a hair, it looked like online hair. I was
Oh,
like, how
it's a
does that
scratch.
happen?
So we issued it to get information from vendors. Gave them information.
It'll take him like, it's just across the street, so.
The solutions you can
And then it's 5 minutes.
absolutely.
Just what happened to that.
Well, we have one.
Okay.
I'm assuming she should be willing to help us update it. Or maybe I can show you how to do it.
I installed like 3 submissions each week, starting with the lowest cost ones. And then just doing an analysis of what do we stay is we can have people focus more on
Like for
the
me,
abnormalities.
their email addresses and then they can't figure it out.
Because we can get, there's a disclaimer and all that stuff.
Yeah.
As he's on his way over.
there's three of them.
versus the.
Just a routine.
So.
Yeah, yeah. I will keep that in mind. I mean, yeah.
If you add things to RP, it doesn't get updated into I mean, if you add things in Salesforce, it doesn't update into RP Link.
Right, but I can.
Yeah, the bad guys are going to right?
Flip side, I'm not gonna let somebody
Yeah.
Perfect. When I put your button in front of me.
Right, yes. Yep.
All right, are we ready with the tech side of things?
I think so.
Was support here?
They were earlier.
Thank you. Okay, so can we go ahead and start? Okay,
Yeah.
all right, we'll give you,
But we do have a quorum, so if you wanted to get through,
without it being strained, that's okay?
and then will we bring him in as attending then? Or do you want it? It's up to you.
Well, as far as the streaming, do we need to wait for the tech guy or go ahead?
You can go ahead.
I think we're rolling, right?
Oh, it is. Okay. Good morning, welcome everyone to the Deferred Compensation Committee Public Meeting, November 13th, 2025. We'd like to do a roll call. Do we have Hope Tribble here?
Present.
Thank you. Susan Slaper,
Present.
Mike Frick,
Here.
and Chad Rainey will be here soon, and I'm Elise Nishala. Hearing that we have a quorum, I call this meeting to order. Would you please read the live streaming disclaimer? Susan, yes.
Capital Cities LLC is an investment advisor registered under the Investment Advisors Act of 1940. The content of this presentation is provided for informational purposes only and is not to be relied upon or acted upon as a recommendation or investment, legal, or tax advice of any kind to any viewer through electronic media. This presentation also may contain forward-looking statements which are based on the beliefs and of information available to the Capital Cities management. Actual results could differ materially from those expressed in or implied by these forward-looking statements. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Capital Cities does not control the website or domain on which this presentation is stored and disclaims any responsibility for any information, services, or products found on websites linked to the page on which this presentation is stored. The unauthorized use of the content of this presentation without the express written consent of Capital Cities is strictly prohibited.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the approval of the meeting minutes from August the 13th of this year. Are there any questions regarding those minutes? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve those minutes.
Thank you, and a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Next, our council, Mike Nader with Barnes and Thornburg, will be following up from the last meeting's discussion on new provisions for the plan. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Good morning, all. A few meetings ago, we talked about Secure 2.0. The IRS had issued tentative regulations, proposed regulations in January of 2025. I'm not sure where time goes. They finally issued final regulations in September of this year. We had hoped that they would postpone this until 2027. A lot of payroll providers aren't ready to administer this catch-up contribution. They have not. We have to comply in good faith. There are a few provisions that were extended to 2027. So Stacy, Nationwide, and I have been discussing compliance efforts, not only for the state, but also for the sub-agencies that participate in our program. We've provided a memo, Barnes and Thornburg has provided a memo that outlines the summary of our conversations, both that we've had with this committee, but also with Nationwide and your staff. Just very quickly, this is all about compliance. So with respect to the Roth catch-up, it applies to high earners, those that make $145,000 or more in FICA. That'll be adjusted for cost of living index. That $145,000 is in the year prior, so for 2026, we'll look at 2025. once we identify, when I say we, the state will identify its employees, each agency has to identify their high earners. The law requires that if they make a catch-up, an age-based catch-up, 50 or older, and they're a high earner, that catch-up contribution has to be after tax, Roth. And so with respect to the Roth contribution, it seems simple, but the complexity of trying to, one, identify, two, ensure that Roth catch-ups are after tax, and ensure compliance becomes very much a communication effort with each of the sub-agencies. Stacy and I also met regarding the state employees this morning. So with respect to the compliance effort, we will amend the plan by the end of 2026 to ratify this compliance. It's required. That will be signed by you as the administrator. And with respect to that, under the terms of the plan, if it's a discretionary amendment, the trustees have to sign it, the committee. But because this is a compliance effort, it'll be your signature. We will add all of the other changes that this committee has approved over the past several years. So we will also have the trustees ratify that. The key to this effort then is the amendment, the identification of those making $145,000, the effort to make sure that our sub-agencies understand that they have to identify these, and police, when I say police, monitor those after-tax contributions. It's interesting, we have a number of agencies that do not have Roth contribution. And so if you do not have Roth contribution, this agency, state does, but the sub-agents cannot offer catch-up contributions with respect to those high earners. And so as part of the communication effort, Nationwide has a bulletin prepared. With that bulletin, we'll provide a letter informing each sub-agency of its compliance requirements. And for those that don't offer Roth now, we'll give them the opportunity to add Roth so they can do catch-up contributions. And so this is all part of an effort to ensure our plan remains in compliance, but it also gives us a chance to reach out to our participating employers to ensure that they understand their fiduciary obligations to comply with our plan document, the tax code, and this $145,000 high earner. And I don't expect them to like it, but it's Congress, not this committee. And so we will comply. That communication effort will be ongoing in this quarter and early next. There is a corrective procedure under IRS regulations. We will adopt procedures to ensure that each agency, state and each agency can use this corrective effort. And it just, what that does is if at the end of 26, we get into 27 and one of the agencies say, oh, we've identified this guy, he's made pre-tax contributions for catch-up, there is a corrective action that we maintain the qualified status of the plan. So it's going to be an ongoing effort, communication, amendment, and then oversight and compliance by all the parties involved. So it's nothing for the committee to approve today. We just wanted to inform you that your staff nationwide and your legal team are on top of it and will ensure compliance and make sure that all of the sub-agencies are informed.
Well, we sure do appreciate that, Mike.
Well, thanks,
And
it's spread around.
And Stacy, thank you all. Are there any questions from this committee?
One quick question. Is this, you mentioned high earners. Is it high earners that are contributing Roth?
Making a catch-up contribution on age-based.
Yeah.
So everyone has the right to make pre-tax contributions up to the code limit. Those 50 and older can make catch-up contributions. The catch-up contributions for the high earners, those 145 above, must be after tax.
Okay.
Those that are under 145 can continue to make catch-up on a pre-tax.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So if somebody wants to take a pay cut.
All right, we do appreciate it. Thank you again. Next, we have an update from our third-party administrator, Nationwide, Michael Burke.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. Just a couple of quick updates from the field. I want to take a moment to officially introduce our newest senior retirement specialist. Kaylee Moreau is with us this morning through a long search and a lot of tedious effort. Kaylee threw her hat in the ring at the last minute, and she is going to take over my role in the Marion and Shelby County areas that I serviced for 13 years plus. So very happy to have her, and she has prior Hoosier Start experience. So she comes to the plan with knowledge and can share that very quickly and is already implementing that in the field with the plans and participants that she has. So happy to welcome Kaylee aboard. And I also will share with you that we're going to wrap up this year with 6 additional webinars. We're already working with our marketing team on additional topics and new information that we can share going into 26. And we have some additional efforts in regards to changing the way that we service the field and all of our local plans, et cetera. And then the last update I had is we do have an open position in the northwest quadrant of the state. We had a senior retirement specialist that transitioned with Nationwide to an identical position in Colorado. So we do have an open position. That position is posted both internally and externally. We've had a handful of candidates and I actually have interviews next week starting. So we hope to fill that quickly and have someone up and running as quickly as possible, hopefully someone with industry experience as well. So we'll keep you updated on that, but happy to welcome Kaylee and continue our efforts. So thank you.
So good morning, everybody. It's great to be with you again. I'm going to do the report rather quickly because we're fortunate to have Mark Monahan with us today to talk about an annual update on the managed account solution that Nationwide offers to your participants called Pro Account. And so I'm going to give him as much time as he needs to be able to explain that update and give you an opportunity to ask questions. So I'll go through the report here rather quickly, but on page 2 of the report, the plan's almost up to $2.4 billion in assets. Been a lot of appreciation in assets over the past year. In fact, even just in the fourth quarter alone, there was over $120 million in appreciation within the investments. So it's always nice to see the market doing what we want it to do, because it doesn't always do that. On page 3, wanted to kind of key in on the average participant balance here. We're at 33,576 as of the end of September. And I just, for interest's sake, went back and looked towards the beginning of our time with Hoosier Start. And in mid-2022, our average balance was $24,533. So significant increase, actually, over 3 years, 37% increase in average participant balance, which I thought pretty good. A lot of that is market appreciation, of course, but the tools that we use and Kim and her team and the work they do with your participants also contribute significantly to that as well. On the next page, page 4, Pro Account usage. I thought maybe I would key in on that a little bit since we have Mark here to talk about Pro Account. When we started with Hoosier Start back in 2022, there were 12,000 participants who were in the Pro Account solution. And we just ended the quarter with 10,900 participants. And really what that shows is that more and more participants that are joining the program are sticking with the target date fund that is the default. And so, and we're not actively marketing this managed account solution. If it fits for an individual participant, then by all means, we'll have that conversation. But, it's not something that we're out there pushing. We did have $515 million in that solution back in 2022, and now we're up over 730. Again, significant appreciation with the market. Looking at the next page, page 5, just kind of zeroing in on the top portion of that page for Roth. Again, significant increases in the usage of Roth. Shortly after Nationwide came into Hoosier Start, the state made a change to their payroll system as well that allowed participants to contribute to both Roth and pre-tax. Prior to that, they had to choose one or the other. And so I think that's made a huge difference for your participants and giving them the opportunity to kind of diversify how they best see fit. And we had 5,900 participants that were in Roth back when we started with the plan, and now we're up over 8,700. So lots of work has gone into that, because that is a change that, generally speaking, requires some education so that participants understand how it works. And additionally, we had 73 million in Roth assets at that time, and now we're up over 184 million. So big increases there. Skip the next couple pages. On 8, the one thing that kind of stuck out for me is looking at that on the lower right-hand side, that table, just the difference by age group in terms of asset allocation. You can see if you look at the age group for 29 and under, 81%, over 81% of assets are in that target date fund solution, which shows that your newer employees are coming in, they're being defaulted into the target date fund. 8. And they're staying there, so which is good. You know, you selected the default option for the target date funds for a reason, and it's working for your participants. And then I did want to skip ahead a little bit, and this is on page 21. So I think I mentioned in the last meeting that, or maybe it was the meeting before, that we have some updates to our functionality with regard to beneficiary designations. Page 21.
Yeah, 21 is a.
It says enablement and engagement at the top.
Yeah, 21 is a, like a title page.
Do we have a defective book? Sorry about that.
Thank you.
It was during FedEx office people. So beneficiaries on file. We're at 41% of participants who have a beneficiary designation. That isn't uncommon for plans that have auto enroll in place, because the enrollment happens via file feed and doesn't necessarily prompt a participant immediately for a beneficiary designation. We do outreach to these participants currently to get them to understand you really do need to go out here and designate a beneficiary, because if you do pass on, it may not go according to your wishes if there's no beneficiary on file. We have changes coming to our online experience, which we actually showed to the group when we were in Columbus earlier this year for due diligence meeting. That's going to prompt participants who don't have a beneficiary on their account when they log in to go take that action. So really excited about that. Is something that we've been wanting to do for a long time, and we've finally been able to get that done. I believe it's going to be in the first half of next year. Online enrollment, we did introduce, and this applies more to your local subdivisions in the cities and counties rather than the state government, because the state's on auto enroll. But for those participants who choose to enroll in the local governments, we have a brand new experience for them that was implemented a little earlier in the summer this year, that makes it so much easier for them to just get into the program, and then from there they can make the changes that they need to make. We've also implemented changes from a cybersecurity perspective to implement right from the very beginning that multi-factor authentication to make sure that they're working in a secure environment. So Last but not least, I'll touch on the My Income and Retirement Planner, which is the bottom of that same page. We switched over from the last quarter to this to look only at those participants who are utilizing the new My Income and Retirement Planner. If you remember about a year ago, and some of you weren't here at that point in time, we switched from our old My Interactive Retirement Planner over to My Income Retirement Planner, which is a much more robust tool that helps participants plan for their retirement. And we are now only showing participants who have utilized the new tool. So this number has declined somewhat because of that. We have 18% of your participants who have utilized the new tool since last November. And we're showing an average chance of success of 65%, which actually isn't too bad because that tool depends on the information you put into it to make sure that it's actually spitting out correct information. And it takes a little bit of time to get that right. So, and Kim knows this well because she and her team help participants through this tool constantly.
If I might just add, for those of you who were not yet with us when we went over to Columbus for our due diligence meeting, it was incredibly helpful to understand how this plan works and even seeing this tool in action. You have taken it to the next level for sure as far as customer service. And so if there's interest in having an opportunity to sit down with Kim or with Kaylee, excuse me, to get up to speed on some of these tools, so you can see what we have to offer to our participants. I'm certain that you all would be very willing to do that. And that I also wanted to just mention, you were talking about multi-factor authentication. When we were with you all, it was truly good to see the emphasis that you put on cybersecurity and fraud prevention.
Yes.
We were in this room that was quite remarkable. Just this huge screen, and you could see the cyber attacks coming across the Atlantic, across the Pacific. You know, it was fascinating and horrifying all at once. Right. And so I just want to say thank you for, I really feel like you all are absolutely leaning into protecting your participants, and that's huge. So thank you for all of your efforts on that.
Absolutely. Thank you. We're very proud of our efforts around that area. As we all know, that financial institutions in the country are definitely under attack. And so we have to do everything we can to keep up with them.
And there'll be another due diligence meeting. We do it like every 2 years, right? So that'll be something to look forward to. But in the interim, should you want a little more information right now, we can certainly do that.
And we'd be willing to do it annually if you want to do it. So it's really up to you guys. So we're happy to host whenever you would like to come.
Thank you.
So with that, and if there are no questions on the book, I will turn it over to Mark to give his update on Pro Account.
Thank you, Michael, and good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you all today. We'll actually be going to under the Pro Accounts review tab, I believe.
It's the last tab.
Pro Account update, excuse me.
Hopefully it's in the book.
Hopefully. All right. So we will, moving forward, similar to the Capital Cities disclosure, nothing I say should be construed as investment advice, legal, or tax advice. Thank you. We at Nationwide are proud to offer multiple forms of investments for your participants. We know different folks want to interact with their plans in different ways. And we really break it down into 3 categories. The do-it-yourselfers are the folks that like to be hands-on. They want to make the investment choices. They like to do the research. We have wonderful tools for them. Michael just mentioned the income retirement planner. That's a great tool that can really help. Your default is target date, or what we consider help me do it. And for the purposes of this discussion, when we get to the data a little bit later, a help me do it participant is going to be somebody who has at least 80% of their account balance in a target date fund. Right? So they're using that structure really as it's designed. And then Pro Account is the reason we're here, the reason I'm here. That's our discretionary managed account solution where a participant has said, hey, I don't want to do this. You do it, either because they don't have the time or the understanding, or they just want to have a professional providing this service, looking after their account and managing it. So the three different categories of participants, we'll come back to that, but we want to make sure everybody that here on the committee understands your participants can interact with us however they choose. We never tell them they have to stick with one. They're always able to move from one to another as far as how they interact with their investments at Nationwide. On the next page, just a little overview of the benefits for both the plan and the participants with Pro Account. So Pro Account is a unique partnership between Nationwide Investment Advisors and our independent financial expert, Wilshire. At a plan level, you're able to offer your participants that true do-it-for-me service. You have a fiduciary in Nationwide Investment Advisors standing beside you for all of the participant accounts that we manage. There's no additional cost to add this service to make it available. Any cost of the plan or any cost of the service is borne by the participants that use it. At a participant level, they have the opportunity to outsource, right? To have a professional looking over their account all the time, every day, right? This is different than self-selecting and having to go back in and log into your account, recheck what you're doing, check your asset allocation. Right? This is all done by the investment professional, the investment team at Wilshire. What I like to call out, there is a 90-day trial. We know folks are sometimes on the fence. Well, how do I get started? I've been defaulted. Do I want to try Pro Account? There's always a 90-day period where an individual can kick the tires. They can get a professionally designed portfolio, and then if they decide they don't like it, they can turn it off, right? There's no harm, no foul, no commitment, and then there's no cost to the participant for using the service up to 90 days. The collaborative approach, when you look at the puzzle on the next slide, this really shows who does what. I mentioned it's a partnership. Nationwide Investment Advisors, that's us. We are the fiduciary and the sponsor for Nationwide Pro Account. We make it go. Any participant communication that happens comes from NIA. When a participant calls in with a question and they're a Pro Account participant, they talk to a registered rep of NIA. Okay? Our partner is Wilshire. I mentioned them earlier. Think of them as the investment brain for Pro Account. They select the funds from your menu. They set the asset allocations, so which funds in which proportion, and then they decide when to make changes, right? Based on market conditions, a participant aging, these things all factor in. So NIA, we make the thing go. Think of us as sort of the operational function, and Wilshire as the investment brain, okay? On the next slide, you can see really how how the rubber meets the road at a participant level. How does it actually work? If you look along the left hand, the vertical axis there, you can see it's a little blurry, but it says the allocation to equities. That's simply how much of a participant's account is invested in the stock market. And as you see along the horizontal axis, as we move from left to right, the participant is getting older. Okay? And if I will call myself out here, as a 50-year-old participant, you can see that chart at the bottom. There's a meaningful difference in the asset allocation among different types of 50-year-olds. Now, you might be an aggressive 50-year-old, you might be a conservative 50-year-old. I'm right in the middle. But you can see in that chart, those percentages are the actual asset allocation to equity. So if I'm aggressive, I've got 79% of my account invested in the stock market. If I'm conservative, I've only got 58. That's the first step of customization with Pro Account. That's what makes it different than a target date fund, is that the allowance for a participant to tell us how they feel about risk, and then us to adjust their portfolio accordingly. On the next page, you can see the other information we would love to get from your participants. Now, actually, it's 52% of the Pro Account users have shared this information with us. So it's 3,834 of the more than 7,000 participants in Pro Account have gone through this process, and they've shared the rest of their information with us. So you can see there's 14 data points there on that slide. And it's things like spousal assets. Do you have a pension? Are you going to get Social Security? Now, some of that information is already in the system because it's part of your plan, the pension information, We know how much a participant is contributing, but we don't necessarily know about their spouse or their spouse's, maybe they have outside savings. All of those things factor in. And that allows us to then, on the next slide, further customize the portfolios. So now that 50-year-old, instead of simply having 3 options, aggressive, moderate, and conservative, we have 9. And that allows us to dial in to get the participant into the most appropriate portfolio based on their entire financial situation. So why would somebody move, right? Maybe you are a little bit behind in your savings. Maybe you started late, you don't expect to get much in Social Security, and you have a reasonably high standard of living expectation once you retire. So maybe we need to move you a little more aggressive to help you reach your goals. On the flip side, maybe you're married, your spouse has a pension coming and Social Security, and you expect a more modest lifestyle in retirement. Maybe we can take a little bit of risk off the table and still help you reach your goals. So that all factors in. We would never put somebody, you can see that box of 9, we'd never put somebody in their 50s into a portfolio designed for somebody in their 20s or 30s. That's not logical. But we might move you one age band older or one age band younger. And the Wilshire Planning Engine helps us decide which of those 9 models is most appropriate. Any questions on that at this point? Okay. Quick case study. So this is a real participant that went through that MERP process with us. And the goal, you can see the objective there, an 80% probability of maintaining one's lifestyle. Now, that's the goal. That's the financial planning engine's goal, is to find a portfolio with 80% or better chance of success. That chance of success, it's based on the second line in the participant profile, replacement ratio. That's how much of your pre-retirement income do you think you need to replace in retirement to have the same standard of living? 85% is about the industry standard. You look at different sources. So that's where our tool starts. But again, maybe you need a little more. Maybe the grandkids are across the country and you're going to travel to see them a lot, or you plan to play golf in exotic locations. So maybe your replacement ratio is 100%. Or maybe it's a little bit less. Maybe it's 70%. So we help you set that goal with us through that income retirement planner that Michael mentioned earlier. And then the engine solves for that. All the rest of the information feeds in. Now, this participant, if you look over to the right, originally with the information he shared, he was only 74.8% in the chance to succeed, right? He was not going to get there based on what was going on right now. We ran him through the optimizer. We came back with a slightly more aggressive portfolio. We simply moved him from moderate for his age up to aggressive, and that moved him to an 81.5% chance of success. We make that trade, we make the exchange, we notify the participant that change has been made, and we continue as is. Okay, so it's active management. It's not one and done, but it's an ongoing process, and it's an ongoing data gather from your participants. As things change, they can always update their information in the system and get a new updated portfolio if that's what's appropriate. Okay. I will mention that, I mentioned it's not a one and done. On the next slide, you can see the process, the circle, right? It's a circle. We're starting out, we're getting enrolled. We find that first portfolio based on age and risk tolerance. Using the tools, you set your goals. What is your replacement ratio? Personalization, it comes in, which one of the 9 portfolios is right? Wilshire continues to monitor the markets, make adjustments to portfolios based on what's happening, but also as the participant moves toward retirement age. It's a cycle. It's an ongoing process. It never stops. This is exactly why you have professional management on your account. Questions on that? This is the prepared portion. I know we reviewed this last year, but hopefully there was a little bit of new stuff in there or something you hadn't seen or considered yet. All right. So let's move a couple slides forward. Let's move to, you'll see the pro account performance results. Now, there's a lot of data in here. So I'm going to move through it quickly, and some of it we'll skip. If you ever have questions about it, though, please know. We're glad to answer. So here's everything with regard to pro accounts and your plan. Now, I will call out, this is just the data for the state of Indiana 457, right? That's the master plan standing in as a surrogate for all of the plans. But you can see we break down the participants, that average asset account balance. I will call out the personal rate of return summary on the bottom right. You can see here's the first time we see those three categories: the do-it-yourselfers, the help-me-do-its, and the pro account users. You can see the quarter to date, year to date, 1 and 3 year median numbers. Median simply means that's the midpoint. Half of the folks are going to be above that line, half will be below. Last time we were together, which was a year ago, we didn't have a 3-year number. We've crossed that threshold now, so we can share more pertinent, more meaningful data than at any point in the past. If we flip over to the participant overview on the next page, I think this is really important because it shows which participants are in which solution. If you look over to the left, you can see you've got just shy of 9,000 do-it-yourselfers. You can see they're the oldest based on average age, and they have the largest balance based on average assets. Then you can see how many funds they typically own and how many asset classes as well. You can see that the help me do it's, that's the preponderance of folks here. That's the default. We would expect to see that, typically the youngest, typically the smallest balance. This all falls right in line with most plans we look at. Pro account falls in the middle. The middle as far as the average age, and the middle as far as average account balance. Very, very typical. I would call out under the help me do it at the bottom, the average asset classes and the average number of funds, very close to 1. A target date fund is a diversified portfolio in and of itself. Our system captures it as a single asset class, just because of the way the data comes out. But the good news is that average number of funds, you want that to be as close to 1 as possible. That means people are not going in and messing with the target date fund. They're not trying to goose it by adding a little extra S&P 500 or international. They're letting it do its job. Your folks are letting it do its job, which is exactly what you would expect. And long-term, we know that ends up having better results than somebody that tries to add a little bit more of something to the recipe. So let's flip ahead. Now, again, for sake of time, let's go to the last slide where it's the 3-year numbers, right? This is different. We were not able to share this last year, but now we are. Folks want to know, well, how is each group doing? And you can see we break it down in 10-year age bands, under 35, 35 to 36 to 45, and on down the line. Each category is shown here. So if we look at the 35 and under, you can see the mean or average return for those folks is 18.93. The target date users that are in that same age, it's 11.59. And the pro account users is 16.37. Everybody see that? Everybody following along? And then we also show you the median for each age group, right? The midpoint, and then the 25 and 75th percentile. So the middle 50% fall between that range. When we look, we'll skip a couple lines. If we look at the 46 to 55, you can see the mean do-it-myselfer is 1533. The mean help me do it is 12.78. And the mean pro account user is 16.33. I would call out, there is an additional cost for pro account that your participants are paying a management fee. All of these returns are reported net of all of the costs, right? So there's no, so these are the actual participant returns that your team is actually experiencing inside their 457 accounts. Okay.
What is the fee?
45 basis points currently.
For the first 100,000, and it goes down from there.
So you can see there's also the graphical interpretation of the median analysis at the bottom. This is exactly as we would expect as well. Typically, the do-it-yourselfers have a wider range of returns. The pro account and the target date users will have a narrower set, right? They're simply going to be closer to the average and closer to the mean. The dot is the mean return. The kind of where the blue and the yellow, or the blue and the gray, excuse me, split. That's the median return. So, I think pro account has shown itself performance-wise. It's doing well. We never want to simply evaluate one solution versus another just on returns, but your offering of pro account, the fund menu that Wilshire has to choose from to build the portfolios is excellent, and Wilshire is very glad to be working with that set of funds, and I think it's reflected there in the returns. So, any other questions from the team?
I just wanted to say, from Capital City's standpoint, The asset allocation of your target date funds, or if you're doing it yourself versus the pro account, that's going to be your primary driver of investment results. So the differences in the asset allocation are definitely impacting these results. But this is a great tool just to kind of monitor and make sure that the performance is within expectations for this product. I think the bigger goal here is making sure that we're providing more customized solutions for the participants based on all of their unique factors. And I see that as being the primary benefit of this service, is that these participants are getting a customized, diversified portfolio that's not just taking into consideration time horizon, which is what the target date funds do. This is taking into consideration other factors, as we went through on that slide, like risk tolerance and outside assets, marital status, all those things that make you uniquely you.
And the fact that more than half of the pro account users have engaged with the tool, right, have shared more information. We usually see between 10 and 30% is sort of the range that it's over 50 is a huge credit to Kim and the team, and the notification, that the participant communications that you all have done to drive folks into the tools to get them to use it as well. So kudos. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, we appreciate that report. Excellent. All right, now we are moving on to our investment consultant report. Tiffany?
Yes, good morning. So I'll bring your attention to our report, which is the one with the Capitol building. So if you turn right behind that Capitol building page, you'll see our considerations and observations. As you know, our firm generally provides a custom project every quarter that's aligned with your fiduciary responsibilities. This quarter is a little bit different. We're not doing that today. We doubled up in the first quarter and did the investment policy statement and fee analysis. And we generally do that for you so that we can designate more time for the record keeper due diligence meeting that we're doing today. Again, this is a little bit different because we did the on-site meeting, so we're not going through cybersecurity because we spent quite a bit of time during our on-site visit, focusing on that area. So we thought today we'll just focus on managed accounts with Nationwide in addition to their normal reporting. So wanted to give you a heads up that this quarter is a little bit different than what we typically do. So with that being said, on the considerations and observations, we have a couple of updates for you. One being the T. Rowe Price Blue Chip Growth Trust. We are transitioning effective November 14th. What is that? Tomorrow? 2 days? Yeah, tomorrow. I can't believe we're already through half of November, but yes, we are doing that transition. We're moving from the current T2 share class to the T4 share class. That's reducing the investment management expense by 5 basis points, going to 40 basis points for those participants invested in the fund. And that's going to save participants on an annual basis approximately $114,000 investment management fees. So really pleased that we met the minimum for that new share class and are conducting that transition. And then you may recall during our August meeting, we did our kind of comprehensive review of the investment menu and talked about trends within the industry. We talked about our standalone investment options, those investment options that allow participants to build their own diversified portfolio. And we also discussed that we have access to each major asset class for our participants. However, we thought about maybe potentially enhancing that investment menu by adding 2 new passive funds or low-cost index funds, being the Core Bond Index and the International Equity Index. So the committee elected to do that. Since that meeting, we've had some additional discussions and we've decided to put that search on hold. And the reason being is we'd like to have more products emerge that are excluding Hong Kong within the international equity space. We think if we wait probably another year, we'll have more products that we can evaluate and survey for the plan. So we'll address that again as part of next year's investment structure review. As we always say, we don't set and forget. We do that annual investment menu review, and we'll talk about that again next year. But we wanted to give you an update with regard to those searches. Again, this was a potential enhancement. We are really pleased with the investment menu that we have in place. Participants can access all of those major asset classes they would need in order to build their own diversified portfolio. So I'll turn it to Susan just to talk about the markets in the third quarter.
So taking a look at page 2, we'll first concentrate on the chart in the middle, which is the equity markets chart. All equity styles were positive for the third quarter. Growth continued to outperform value. Small caps did outperform large cap, which was a reversal or rotation from last quarter. And then taking a look going from left to right on the chart, the S&P 500, which is your large cap core, returned 8.1%. That Magnificent Seven stock, that group of stocks that we talk about a lot, was a big driver of that growth. And then looking at large cap value and mid cap core, those were the weakest performing styles for the quarter, but still up 5.3%. Moving over to small cap value, the return was 12.6%, which was the best performing style for the quarter. And then looking over towards the right of the chart, international developed and international emerging markets both finished positive, up 4.8 and 10.6%. Over the 1 year time period, we're still seeing strong returns across all styles, with large cap growth and large cap core leading the way. And then just taking a look at the individual sectors, information technology was the best performing sector of the quarter. It was up 13.2%, and that's driven somewhat by those Mag 7 stocks. It includes Apple, NVIDIA, and Microsoft. And then communication services was up 12%, and that includes Google and Meta, which are also some of those Mag 7 stocks. Taking a look at the fixed income chart on the bottom, nearly all styles except non-dollar were positive for the quarter. The Bloomberg aggregate, which is your fourth set of bars from the left, was up 2.2% for the quarter and almost 3% for the year. Looking over to the very right of the chart, EM debt was the best performing style for the quarter. And then over a 1 year time period, fixed income results are positive, with high yield and EM debt leading the way. We did want to mention that the Fed cut rates by 25 basis points in the third quarter, and then again by another 25 basis points at the end of October, and markets are still pricing in a possible one more rate cut before the end of the year.
And then if we move ahead to page 6, you can see how the assets fall within the plan. So we ended the third quarter with roughly $2.4 billion in assets. 25% of those assets are within our target date funds, and then 75% within those standalone investment options allow participants to build their own diversified portfolio. We do have within the self-directed brokerage, which was new to the plan effective January 1st of 2024. We have 3.9 million, representing about 0.2%. So we've seen that, pick up just a little bit since it's been offered. And then on the next page, page 7, we highlight how we're monitoring each of your investment options per the investment policy statement guidelines. You can see green lights across the board, with the exception of the T. Rowe Price Blue Chip Growth Trust Fund. The long-term performance, which we categorize as a 5-year time period, has displayed some underperformance. That fund was previously on watch list. We saw a new portfolio manager come into the strategy, and then we saw improved performance. So we removed it from watch list for that short-term performance. However, that long-term performance we continue to monitor, but we're pleased to see that improvement. And then with regard to performance, your target date funds, which are your default option within the plan, and also, as I mentioned, represent 25% of the assets. Our State Street target date funds, the 2065 fund had a 7.2% return for the quarter, our most aggressive. And then the retirement fund had a 3.6% return. And then for the 1 year time period, those returns range from 8 to 15.3%, which just gives you a good idea of what a diversified portfolio would have provided for a participant, but also what our actual target date funds did for those who were defaulted into the target date funds. So I'll pause there and see if there are any questions. That really concludes the remarks that we wanted to make today for the third quarter report.
Wonderful, thank you. Any questions from the committee? Well, we appreciate your report. Good information. Is there any old business? Okay. For new business, I would like to, first of all, express our appreciation to Nationwide and to the State Comptroller's Office for your collaborative efforts in earning a second, 2 years in a row now, leadership award. And this year's award did receive the Member's Choice designation. So bravo for your incredible work on that. And Emily, would you mind just real quickly, for those who are new with us, give us a summary of the first project that you did to receive that award and then this next one?
Yeah, so
And Emily Boyson is our communications director and also a lead on.
So the first year we won that award, we actually created with Nationwide a beneficiary campaign. We noticed that we had more than 50% of our participants that did not have an active or accurate beneficiary, which is a big issue with plans. So we created a campaign that really tackled with state employees and locals to really get them motivated to complete that part of their account. And it won a leadership award. And then this last year, we created with the help of Nationwide what we call a leadership campaign. And it was five very simple, easy to use, easy to understand leadership guides. Whether it was understanding beneficiaries or how to access your account, things that they would typically learn during onboarding, but you're reading through the fire hose when you do onboarding. So we wanted to empower our managers, our leaders, but also employees to be able to access these documents that would allow them to then walk through their Hoosier Start account and their plan to easily understand it. And so we created these documents to really empower managers to have better conversations with their employees, because we learned that, as John always says, that the more employees understand their full benefit package, the morale is always higher. So that was really kind of our guiding force with that campaign, and that was what got us our second award. And while we were at NAGDA, all of the awardees get kind of put into a bucket, and then everybody gets to vote on one of those awards as a Members' Choice Award. So you were fortunate to win that.
So we are so grateful for your service to this plan.
Of course.
And not just as an example of the excellence that you've contributed. So everyone, Emily is leaving us. She has a great opportunity with the Department of Child Services. She's going to be the Deputy Chief of Staff. And we just want you to know how much we appreciate you and everything that you have contributed to the success of this plan. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And Jess, sitting right next to her, is going to be assuming this role here. So we appreciate you, Jess, being willing to step into this opportunity. So welcome.
Thank you.
And Jess Najat, I should give her a full name. And then also wanted to offer a legislative update. So we have had conversations that really started before this past session in 25 about how do we increase the match for Hoosier Start participants, because it is at the same level as it was when it was first started back in 1999, which is
20 some years ago.
26.
26.
Give or take.
$26 a pay period. So, in current day value, we wanted to see, could we lift that up in a revenue neutral manner? And so an idea emerged. We have the Roomba, which is a retirement medical savings account benefit, but only 50% or so of state employees ever realize this benefit, because you have to retire from the state of Indiana or else you forfeit that benefit. So the thought is, could we offer folks either to maintain that benefit or to switch and have those funds go to improving their match for participating in deferred compensation? And there was, out of this last legislative session, they put together a study on this, and we now have a draft of legislation that will be presented this next session. Right from the get-go, I think it's getting introduced in the first week is the plan. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that positive development. We will all be watching its progress through the legislative process. So, any thoughts or questions there? I think it's good for us to understand, being in this space, right, of retirement savings and planning, that Social Security has some challenges. And so if we can offer our folks some added incentive to take more ownership of their retirement future, increasing that match to hopefully bring it up to the present day value of when it was originally started, we thought would be something to certainly explore and see if we can make that happen in, again, a revenue neutral fashion.
Great.
That's it. Great, okay. Thank you. So we'll keep everyone posted and we will all be watching. Without any further comments from anyone? All right. We just need a vote to adjourn this meeting. The next meeting will be Thursday, February the 12th. Hopefully we'll have good weather for those of you coming over from Columbus, and from DeKalb County, Indiana. Do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion